Hi there, welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today we're going to be checking out this new album from author and punisher Krüller. One-man industrial doom drone noise artist, author and punisher led by Tristan Schoen has returned with a new album and a new approach to sonic landscapes. This is, of course, their first full-length record on Relapse Records, which may have been a factor in the sound of this album, but even still, this album finds Schoen really fully fleshing out the sounds and styles that he had been toying with on Beastland. There's a lot of really cool melodic passages and noise experiments that were really only toyed with before, now on full display for this album. The drone and whining of machinery over glitched out vocals lands beautifully on the opening track of the album, Drone Carrying Dread. This track is a great showcase of how far along Tristan Schoen has taken his sound. There's elements of early industrial furiously mixed in with this new age approach to the genre as a whole. Fans of Skinny Puppy, Frontline Assembly, or My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult will find this album incredibly familiar with a ton of fresh takes on otherwise played out old tropes that the genre killed off decades ago. The way Schoen approaches these cascading walls of sound is pretty cool too, with much less of a focus on just blasting a repetitive colossal sound wave over heavy, harsh vocals, and instead lets the melody of the song lead the volume and presence increases. And as a result of the depth of the mix on this album, which is very impressive, there's a lot you can miss on the first listen of this album because of just how much effort has been put into the layering and the track dynamics. The track Incinerator starts off with a careening bass line that leads off the song that kind of bait and switches the style of the song as the whole mood shifts very quickly into a much more subtle sound after this big intro. The vocals start and lead the song into a very moody passage that builds tension for another sound wave section. The interplay between Schoen and his machine MIDI controllers is particularly intimate on this song. There's a lot of moments that feel deeply personal and angry on this track in a very violent way. Centurion has one of the coolest intros on the record with a fierce synth delivery that strongly taps into memories of the Metroid Prime soundtrack. If you ever played through the game at all, you'll know what I'm talking about. The beat to this song is super drone heavy and it's mixed with these high tweaking synths and MIDI work that are just top notch. I think the vocal work does suffer here a little bit, but only marginally. It's still pretty good overall, but there's moments where the delivery doesn't land how I would hope, but paired with everything else, it's fairly easy to overlook. Maiden Star is an absolute gem of a track with the almost meditative drone that leads this song. The whole track leans into these soaring passages of vocals that delve into valleys of sound. The whole presentation feels awe-inspiring, like there's purpose and passion driving the sound behind this track. The second half of this song doubles down on the formula that the first half develops and turns it into one of the most sonically diverse tracks that Schoen has ever delivered. The effortless shifts of mood and tone are brilliant, and the flow of writing is stunning. The next track, Misery, is kind of a play on the last song with an almost complete 180 in style. The change up between the tracks is biting and really great for flow of the album overall. This song has a really great slow beat that is really different from a lot of the tracks on the album. The song is a bit more bare in its presentation and as a result has a bit of a tendency to rely a little bit too heavily on repetition, but even still, it's a pretty good track that has its place here. The song Glory Box takes the original Portishead version and flips it on its head in a kind of health meets doom metal way. It's an incredibly fresh but respectful take on the original and blends perfectly with the rest of the songs on the album. As a side note too, it's really cool to see some Portishead covers. I'm really glad that Schoen has tackled this song because they just own it super hard. It's also kind of cool at this point, it's cool to see the way in which contemporary bands have bled into the sound of this record. It's really easy to tell at this point of the album. Like I said, this track has like a really heavy health kind of sound to me, and I think it works really well. There's obviously the influence that I imagine touring with Tool left on Schoen a couple of years ago. I think there's a strong comparison to be made with the vocals on this album with, compared to the style of Maynard James Keenan's vocals. I don't know much else to say on that point, but it is definitely something that you can tell. There's been a lot of bleed in between styles and bands, and I think it's getting a little bit more obvious, and it works really well in the way that they've sort of balanced everything. Blacksmith is a super glitch-heavy song that subverts expectations by using harsh noise blended with glitch tracks layered over doom metal vocals. It's very Merzbow-like and makes for one of the busiest and simultaneously most interesting listens on the album. There's a bit of a driving beat here that actually kind of sounds like a BT beat, like the artist BT. If you listen to Suddenly by BT off of the album These Hopeful Machines and compare the intro of that to around 3 minutes or so into this track, it kind of matches up weirdly. So I'm not sure if that was intentional or if it was sampled or if it's kind of just easy to make stuff that sounds that kind of similar in electronic music. But I found it kind of neat. I don't know if it's really ripping on much, but I mean, there's something to be said there for the similarity. I mean, it is almost to a T at some point, so give that a listen, because I don't know if that's just me or what, but check that out. Anyway, the song is still one of the most out there on the album and is worth a listen on its own if you haven't already heard it. The final song is the title track, Krüller. This is a fantastic album closer with a song that isn't too experimental, but isn't afraid to take some risks to make this a very interesting track to listen to. You know, I think that this is kind of the amalgamation of all of the vocal development on this album. Nothing is really too outlandish, but everything is sensibly written and in places where it should be. There's a distinct sense that all of these moments that this track has are very calculated to be as theatrical and as enthralling as possible. With the release of this record, Tristan Schoen has delivered some of his most versatile and engaging music to date with this album. It's just, this set of tracks is tight and concise and well thought out. What little problems the album has are easily ignorable for the staggering amount of good material that is on this album. Krüller is a solid 9. Thank you all so much again for watching. The response I've been getting to my uploads lately is awesome. You guys are the best. Please let me know what you thought of the album in the comments below and tell me what I should review next. If you would like to support the channel more, you should check out my Reverb store and my Instagram. Links to those are in the description below. And hey, leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you on the flip side.